The poem was written on July 13th, 1798 and was published in the same year in the volume Lyrical Ballads, which is an important landmark in the history of English poetry. Wordsworth's own note on the poem runs like thus: I began it upon leaving Tintern after crossing the Wye and concluded it just as I was leaving Bristol in the evening after a ramble of 4 or 5 days with my sister Dorothy. Not a line of it was altered, not any part of it written down till I reached Bristol. So the poem starts like this. The full title of this poem is Lines Composed a Few Miles Above Tintern Abbey on Revisiting the Banks of the Wye during a tour, July 13th, 1798. It opens with the speaker's declaration that 5 years have passed since he last visited this location, encountered its tranquil rustic scenery, and heard the murmuring waters of the river. He recites the objects he sees again and describes their effect upon him. The steep and lofty cliffs impress him, thoughts of more deep seclusion. He leans against the dark sycamore tree and looks at the cottage grounds and the orchard trees, whose fruit is still unripe. He sees the wreaths of smoke rising up from the cottage chimneys between the trees and imagines that they might rise from vagrant dwellers in the houseless woods, or from a cave of a hermit in the deep forest. The speaker then describes how his memory of these beauteous forms has worked upon him in his absence from them, when he was alone or in a crowded town or in cities. They provided him with sensations sweet, fell in the blood, and felt along the heart. The memory of the woods and the cottages offered tranquil restoration to his mind, and even affected him when he was not aware of the memory influencing his deeds of kindness and love. He further credits the memory of the scene with offering him access to the mental and spiritual state in which the burden of the world is lightened, in which he became a little soul. With a view into the life of things, the speaker then says that his belief that the memory of the woods has affected him so strongly may be vain, but if it is, he has still turned to the memory often in times of the fretful stir. Even in the present moment, the memory of his past experiences in these surroundings floats over his present view of them, and he feels bitter-sweet joy in reviving them. He thinks happily too that his present experience will provide many happy memories for future years. The speaker acknowledges that he is different now from how he was in those long time ago, when as a boy he bounded over the mountains and through the streams. In those days, he says, nature made up his whole world. Waterfalls, mountains, and woods gave shape to his passions, his appetites, and his love. That time is now past, he says, but he does not mourn it. For though he cannot resume his old relationship with nature, he has been amply compensated by a new set of more mature gifts. For instance, he can now look on nature not as in the hour of thoughtless youth, but hearing oftentimes the still sad music of humanity. And he can now sense the presence of something far more subtle, powerful, and fundamental in the light of the setting suns, the oceans, the air itself, and even in the mind of man. This energy seems to him a motion and a spirit that impels all thinking thoughts and rolls through all things. For that reason, he says he still loves nature, still loves mountains and pastures and woods, for they anchor his purest thoughts and guard the heart and soul of his moral being. The speaker says that even if he did not feel this way or understand these things, he would still be in good spirits on this day, for he is in the company of his dear sister Dorothy, who is also his dear friend, and in whose voice and manner he observes his former self and beholds what I was once. He often offers a prayer to nature that he might continue to do so for a little while, knowing, as he says, that nature never did betray the heart that loved her, but leads rather from joy to joy. Nature's power over the mind that seeks her out is such that it renders that mind impervious to evil tongues, rash judgments, and the sneers of selfish men, instilling instead a cheerful faith that the world is full of blessings. The speaker then encourages the moon to shine upon his sister and the wind to blow against her, and he says to her that in later years, when she is sad or fearful, the memory of this experience will help to heal her. And if he is himself dead, she can remember the love with which he worshipped nature. In that case too, she will remember what the woods mean to the speaker, the way in which after so many years of absence they became more dear to him, both for themselves and for the fact that she is in them. The poem Tintern Abbey is composed in a blank verse, which is a name used to describe unrhymed lines in iambic pentameter.